will get that little message saying accept and welcome everyone. We're so happy that you're all here. Allison, I have people still jumping on, so I'm going to hand it over to you to introduce what we're doing. And
okay, so this is, what is this? 5 Keys to Mastering Intuition. That's the class. My name is Allison Sutter, and I'll just introduce myself because only a few of the faces I actually know. So I am a spiritual mentor and intuitive, and I work with women on 3 things: on tapping into intuition, trusting it, following it. I'm also admitting people to Casey, transforming limiting beliefs that are fear-based into something better every time they show up, because y'all know that they keep showing up. They do. And then living authentically as oneself. Like, in those 3 touch points, when blended together, are phenomenal. I mean, energy points together. So that's what I do. Kai and I met somewhere in the ether, and now we're still in the ether together. And as many of you, we're meeting in the ether here, and we feel such passion about teaching this topic about intuition that we're going to help you with these 5 points today. So you're going to be able to walk away with these 5 points knowing, all right, I got this. So as we go through this, here's what we're going to do, and here's how we're going to structure our time. We are going to, after Kai introduces herself, we are going to give you those 5 points, and we're going to give you our different perspective and language on them, so you can see and hear them sort of from these 2 perspectives. What we ask you guys to do is just sit. Don't take notes. You'll have the recording. Sit and see what resonates with you, how it resonates, feel it. Then after we do that, we're going to go back to those points and ask you what your questions are about those points. Okay. There's not going to be a ton of content. It isn't like we're going to slam you with everything under the sun. 5 points, very minimal, because we want you to walk away with your ability to see them happening in your life. That sound good? Sound good? Awesome. All right, Kai, introduce yourself.
all right, hello everyone. I'd like to see some familiar faces and brand new ones, which is very exciting. I'm Kaileen Cox. I have been helping people heal by facilitating healing since 2011, and now really stepping into the role of clearly making it so people know that they are ultimately healing themselves. And one of the biggest ways to heal yourself, I believe, is listening to our intuition and the messages we're getting, so that we know we're truly never alone. And hosting events like this is something I'd been thinking about for a long time. So I used to be one-on-one, and now going into the bigger group setting and offering events like retreats, which we'll talk about at the end, which is very exciting. And so I just wanted to really quickly thank everyone for showing up today, showing up for yourself, showing up for all of us that are here today. So far, we got 22 people. Great number. Just had to point it out, of course.
We're in the double digits right now.
Definitely. So without further ado, I think we should get to the first key.
Awesome.
All right.
You want to do it, or do you want me to do it?
I'll do it. So
okay.
First key, really simple. To be working and honing your intuition, you have to have a definition of what your intuition is to you. I'm not saying you necessarily have to look up in the dictionary, what is intuition? I'm saying, have an idea of what it means to you. Allison, do you want to say your definition?
Yes, I do want to say my definition. I also want to sort of expand that by saying you already have a definition, which is why you're here. And part of that definition includes, I'm not as intuitive as I want to be, which is why you're here, because you want to learn these 5 keys. So you have to understand what your active definition is. And the way you can do that is to realize how it's coming through or not coming through in your life. That is your definition. If you say to yourself, I'm not intuitive, or if you say, only women are intuitive, men aren't intuitive. If you like, there are definitions, and we can hear them in conversation with other people. We say them out loud all the time. Those are part of our definitions. Your definitions are creating your experiential reality. So you got to kind of start swimming in the pond of definition. How am I really defining this? Do I think it's only women? Do I think it's only men in business? Do I think, like, what am I thinking about here? How is it coming through for me? So that being said, my definition of intuition is my conversation with my higher self, right? Probably every single one of you guys has some kind of relationship with the term soul, spirit, non-physical consciousness. Mine is, that is my higher self, which is, I don't have to die to be a more physical or more spiritual person. I'm already 100% spiritual. Intuition is the conduit. It's the interface between you and your higher self. It's the part where the language comes through and you understand it. Now, your language may be clairaudience, clairvoyance, clairsentience, claircognizance. Your language may be, oh, it's just a gut feeling. Your language might be, oh, I had the goosies, right? Your language could be anything I've said, more than I've said, none of what I've said. It's your language between you and your higher self. Now, that's my definition. You might have something completely different, right? I don't know.
Like, my definition is similar, but in different words. I think of it as the channel to my higher self that I get hits from. So, turn left, turn right, and just kind of see where my spirit wants to guide me. And I believe that in every action we do, our intuition is talking to us. So we get to practice when we want to be listening and communicating back with the universe, because the universe is always there talking with us.
So just take a second and sit on that, because what you can do with this is, you don't have to define it right now. What I have found to be super helpful is just to take that question and chew on it for the next day, for the next 2 weeks, for the next 2 months. How is my current active belief about intuition coming through for me? You will experience an expansion of certain things, which are what we're going to talk about next, which is number 2. Hashtag number 2.
So number 2, it's all about your awareness. How often are you getting these messages? How often are you tuning in, making space so that these messages can come in? Are you taking time to journal? Are you having conversations out loud or internal with your higher self? Sometimes, we're in crisis, or sometimes we're in meditative state, and we can still get intuitive hits. So we have to practice, or we get the option to practice getting these intuitive guidance in both those situations and every situation in between. So just really, what does your intuition communicating with you feel like?
It is coming through 100%, because you guys are all 100% intuitive. Now, you may have a different definition that you're not, but you are non-physical consciousness having an experience. So you are intuitive. In your awareness, be really cognizant of whether the sensation you're getting is one of fear or constriction, or love and expansion. Your intuition is always coming through with an expanded love-based energy. It is never coming through in a fear-based energy, although you can feel it in an emergency situation, right? You can feel it in those situations where you're either in actual real physical danger, or you're experiencing a belief activated. I'm not enough. I can't do this. I'll never have what I want. But the communication, be aware of the difference, because your intuition will be a clear, calm, certain communication always, because it's coming from your non-physical self, which is love-based. So you got to discern the difference. Is this a negative belief? Oh my God, I can't do that thing. I'm going to totally, or is this, oh, that feels really fun. That feels really interesting. Maybe I should go this way. Maybe I should pick up that book. Okay, so we have definition and we have expanding awareness. Number
3. which is practice, 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 practice. You know, we've all been hearing that our whole lives, that we have to practice to become perfect, or our sense of perfect. And this can look 100 different ways for 100 different people, but it's, are you showing up to do the work to become more spacious? Are you noticing what it feels like and wanting to be in that vibration? How do you practice, Allison?
So, okay, that's a funky word, because practice usually reminds us of school, where we go, oh my God, I got to do my homework. And if I don't do my homework, I won't get my grade. I won't get my, that's not the kind of practice we're not talking about, you know, the crap you learned in school. That's not what we're talking about. We're just talking about really sort of a blending of your awareness with an intersection of your experiential learning, your real life, like what's actually happening. So in those experiences, y'all go to bed, y'all get up, and stuff happens in between. So that in between portion is your experiential learning. What's happening in that experience, where you can be more cognizant of your intuitive hits, the way they're coming through for you. Is it something that's been an expansion of your current definition? Are you including it more? So I'll give you a little example. So I used to think that when I would watch mediums or channels or other people who are intuitive types of individuals, I used to sit there and watch and feel a sense of lack, because I'm like, oh my God, I can't do it the way they do it. I love the way they do it. I want to do it the way they do it. And so you feel this impulse to try to replicate the experience that you're seeing, which might not be the way that you're supposed to do it. So the practice might not be what you're seeing replicated on someone else's big screen there. Your practice, and that's where you got to sort of reel back in and go, all right, what is my intuitive hit? And the way you can know what it is follow your highest level of excitement. Take it as far as you can take it, so you can't take it any farther from the choices that you have before you. Don't demand that it be something, because that's where you're going to trip up a little bit, right? Follow that excitement. I wrote a whole book without looking at someone else's script and said, how am I going to write this book? I'm writing another book. I'm going to write it based on intuitive guidance. My whole business is intuitively guided. Everything can be successful and intuitively guided, but you got to know, what does that feel like for you? So your practice is the fluff in between when you get up and when you go to bed. It's all that stuff that happens in the middle. It's the sandwich stuff. It's the filler. It's your experience. So I think that gets us to number 4.
Sure does. Which is acknowledgement. Are you taking the time to acknowledge the messages you're getting? Are you acknowledging the ones you listen to, or the ones you decided not to? Because in everything, we have free will, we have choice. And are you reflecting on the way that you personally connect? Just like Allison was saying, you know, we've all, or I also have looked at other mediums and been like, ooh, I want to be able to do that. Or, you know, you see someone live channeling and you're like, ooh, that's exactly how it's supposed to look.
This is how you suck a popsicle and have you.
Yeah, you can.
Sorry about that.
You can delete that.
Okay. So, just a message from spirit, I guess. Anyways, I guess we all need a
message from Popsicle Man.
We were taking this way too seriously.
Oh, right? This is great. No, this is great. So real life examples are perfect. So that would be an example of a fear-based intuitive hit. Don't follow that. It's not the right one. You want to go with the good feeling ones. I love it. All right. We're in acknowledgement.
Yes.
Finish.
So you want to fill in what that means to you?
Sure. So when you think of acknowledging, it makes me think of, you know, so let's say you get an intuitive hit and it's something like, I need to go to the library and get this book. All right. Or whatever. I need to do this. I need to do that. Acknowledgement means to me being in the energy of certainty that that's what that communication from my higher self was. Now, here's where we kind of get tripped up. if that intuitive hit doesn't lead to something that you can see discernibly leads to a result that you wanted, or something definitive, you're like, oh, I had that intuitive hit, why didn't it turn out? So acknowledge that it was an intuitive hit, because we're beings of free will. We have limiting beliefs. We have all of these things that are mishmashed up. Intuition is communicating with us through the path of least resistance. It's getting to us in the best way it possibly can, which doesn't necessarily mean that the hit that you get, that the inspired action you take will ultimately lead to the thing you thought it was supposed to lead to. So don't like dismiss the validity of the hit just because the outcome wasn't exactly what you thought it would be, or you think it's taking too long to get to that result, or, the thing that you want. Acknowledge the certainty that you had about that communication. Just leave it there. Let that be enough that you are clearly communicating with your higher self. I'll give you another example. So we've got kids in, one in college, one going to college, one in high school. If you guys have kids, you know that, Beth, I see you're smiling. You probably heard these conversations before. You probably recognize my background too, don't you? So we're getting these college flyers, just inundated with them. And I usually just throw them out. But one flyer came through one day. I held on to it. And I was like, there's something to this. There's something to this. So it didn't necessarily lead to something the next day, or even ultimately, I don't know, because it was a college that we took, the one that's going to college too. It's the perfect college for this kid. It is the perfect college. And you can kind of feel that in the energy. Now, ultimately, will this kid go there? I don't know. It depends on if they get admitted, right? It's not my life, it's their life. But the feeling is leading you towards the abundance and the well-being that is rightfully yours. Don't get your teeth in what you think is the ultimate outcome, because just keep letting it flow, which leads us to the next step.
Which is, everyone take a nice deep breath and relax. Just
That's it.
Gently get out of your own way. Sometimes our ego, our monkey mind wants to really focus in on, oh, well, this is what I thought was coming and it's nothing like that. Well, just relax. You never know what else is still coming. I like to always say time is not linear. So you might think, oh, in 2 Tuesdays, this is going to happen, when really it might be 2 Tuesdays from now in 6 years, right? Who knows?
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
Just relax, take note of what you're getting, and don't be hard on yourself. Be gentle, be spacious with yourself.
And when you allow your physicality to relax, you are ultimately tuning into more of the communication that you would like to receive. So I use a description for energy differently than most people. Most people say positive and negative. That's a term of judgment. We look at that and we go, high vibes only, negative vibes, no, thank you. Like, we look at this like this is good and this is bad. If you look at energy as constricting or expansive, either expansive, inclusive, the positive energy, it's an energy structure, versus negative, which is constrictive, isolating. When you relax and you expand your energy, it makes sense that you include more of all that you are, more of your higher self. So what you will experience is, you thought you only got intuition through gut feelings, or you thought you only got a clairsentience, but what you will see is the multidimensionality of your whole being. As you sit in that expanded energy, you'll be like, oh, wait, it's coming through this way, and it's coming through this way, and it's coming through that door and that door. And I'm actually more multifaceted in the intuitive realm than I thought I was. So you've expanded, you've done all the things that we've talked about, right? You've expanded your definition, you're more aware of it. The practice is the integration. You don't have to make anything up. You have enough content in your real life to have everything you need to analyze. You don't need to do anything else. It's all right there. Even if you just go to the grocery store and the library and, put your kids to bed, there's enough content there. You don't have to make anything up. So I know that's hard because when you think you're not getting the intuitive messages that you would really like to have, there's a constriction. There's a feeling of lack. I'm not doing it right. I'm not getting enough. And there's a constriction. Just focus on other things that bring you joy. In that sense of joy, you will notice, and this is your awareness, the expansive feeling that you get. That's your only job, is to move towards the things that fill you up more and begin to connect those dots versus the things, and we all do constrictive things. Like, let's be real, life is full of them. However, you just want to keep growing your awareness. Like when I'm over here, ooh, I get that sensation when I'm reading that book and I see that line and it's like, oh my God, that means something, right? There's meaning for that. So you just start, all of the picture starts to come together. Does that make sense? Okay, so we've got our 5 points. So now, question probably, we can go back over them with questions.
Yeah, kind of rehone in. If anyone wants to jump out, has any questions in particular about any of these, yeah, Bailey, if you wanna, you can come off mute.
Yeah, so when it comes to like feeling like you're getting messages, like things are popping up, like I experience a lot of like kind of synchronicities where I'll hear like the same word that's like very specifically descriptive in a situation that keeps popping up in like weird areas, or like a picture or something specific. But I always wonder, like, is it there because it has meaning, or is it in a sense like because you're thinking about it, it's like popping up more to you, like you kind of like spot it more? And so like, is there an easier way to kind of tell like, oh, this has meaning, this is a message, this is importance, or is it just us kind of like searching for that idea?
I'll answer and then you can answer, okay?
Okay.
So discernment is your best friend. There are subtleties within everything that you just said. Is it me, or is it just a thought I'm thinking? And all of the above. This is an inclusive reality. It's not a separative reality. Everything is inclusive. So it's probably all of the above, because law of attraction brings you thoughts that are like those thoughts, or it might be the repetitiveness of the thought you keep translating the vibration of that thought because you're on that frequency. And it's probably some blend of intuition coming through. You have to have discernment. This is where the practice, the awareness comes into play. Ask yourself, is this a full intuitive message? What does it feel like? Is this just a thought that I just keep repeating in my mind? Which, if it is, and it's an intuitive thought, all good. There's nothing. So this is where your discernment, this is where time-space reality comes in, and we have to walk through it every day, seeing where we can fine tune the sensations and figure out for ourselves what it is for us, because we create our own realities.
And to add to that, you gotta think about what might be in your energy field already. And that's when you take the time to ask, like, what brought this to my energy field? Was it something from my higher self that brought it in, or was it a thought I've been having? So I keep noticing, like, oh, this number means something to me, so I keep seeing it on every clock and every time I look at my phone, whether it's like the battery percentage or something. You get to look inward and ask. It's as simple as asking, what does this mean to me? And then taking the time, the practice of listening to what you get.
Bailey, does that help? Do you want us to go a little further with that? How do you feel?
Yeah, I think it helps. Like, as I'm kind of understanding it, like in a sense, you can think of it as like, if you're picking up on these things and you're perceiving it, like maybe you're also sending that message out there because you're thinking about it, that's what you're receiving. And like you said, it kind of is like, well, what does it mean to you? Like, does it give you a certain feeling? Does it have value to you? Is it something you can kind of discern or figure out? So I think it answered my question. Thank you.
Okay, because nothing has innate meaning. We bring the meaning to it. So if, if it's 111 and you're like, oh, that means something, that's because we bring the meaning to it. Elaine's question is, so this is actually a really big question. If you are also empathic, how can you tell the difference between an intuitive thought and someone else's thought? Heidi, do you want to go first on this?
Well, yes, of course. So mine keeps coming back to, are you taking that moment, that breath, that space to be like, is this mine? Or am I picking this up from someone else? That I think is your starting point. Like you are giving that moment to yourself to be clear on, oh, no, don't do that now. And then how does it feel for you? Does it feel like you have all the space in the world and it feels right? Like I like to always picture it like you're at a concert. Does it feel like you're down in the pit, like in a mosh pit, everyone's bumping into each other? Some people love that. And sometimes it's nice to be in that space. Or does it feel like you're in a VIP room all to yourself and the whole concert is just for you? And like that vibration, what does that feel like to you? Really take a moment and ask, is this intuitive hit for myself? That's what I do every time I get something. Is this for me? And as an empath myself, I like to bring in other people's messages on my own time. I make clear boundaries with spirit that they don't get to like disrupt my sleep or they don't get to alter my mood. It's on my time. Allison, do you want to?
Yes. So, okay. As empaths, we have been trained to buy into the definition that we take on other people's energy. Like that's a common definition of being empathic. And I identify with the word empathic. But I want to put an idea out there just for you to chew on, just for you to think about, that we don't actually take on other people's energy or frequency. We just match it with our own. So our matching of someone else's energy is just a translation of their frequency. We only have our own thoughts, but we can meet someone else's energy. And it feels like, especially when they have a very strong energy, it feels like, but we're just sloppy in our creating of our own energy. And we allow ourselves to be matching their energy because we're in control of it. We create our own reality. Seth, there's a series of books called the Seth series. Jane Roberts wrote them in the 70s. We create our own reality. They're fantastic. Go look them up. So the thing I would say about, how do you tell the difference between an intuitive thought and feeling someone else's? First of all, like I just said, you feel your own, but is it a feeling of constriction or is it a feeling of expansion? Right? Because you got to differentiate, because a lot of times, if we're picking up on, if we're meeting someone else's frequencies that expansive, we never say, am I picking up on your thoughts? Because it feels really good. We only tend to use that if it's something negative. But I think Kai kind of touched on this. If it's in the spiritual realm, you can translate the thoughts of spirits. You can translate the thoughts. You can even translate thoughts that just sit in the ether, depending on your frequency. So if it's a communicate, that's where discernment comes in, and that's where the practice comes in. You've got to begin to fine tune your human instrument to figure out the difference of, is this what I consider to be a communication from my intuitive self? And that has a particular resonance to it, right? It feels a certain way to you. And the more you practice and the more you become aware, it's sort of like a signature frequency. You're like, oh yeah, that's definitely that. And then this feeling that I get is because I'm matching someone else's energy, whether it's expansive or contractive. And this feeling that I get is actually a communication from grandma, right? Like you'll begin to discern the difference, and they all have a bit of different tonality to them. And you are the instrument that is translating the different frequencies. So it's all about discernment. This isn't anything, you guys can all do this. You're all born with this capability. You were just trained out of thinking that you had it by tall people when you were a little person, right? That's all that happened. You were born, I used to teach kindergarten. Like every single one of you was tuned exactly to your frequency of higher self, to your, like, and you were just flowing, and you were playing Legos, and you were playing dolls, and you were playing in the dirt. And then the big people came along and said, no, you can't do that anymore. You have to do it my way. And you went, okay. and you lost the connection, didn't actually lose it. You just you trained into a belief that it wasn't right to do that your opinion and your perspective was wrong. But it's all there for you to receive immediately, but usually we walk through the time-space realm and we go to bed and we get up and stuff happens and we don't focus on it. And then we do. And but you all can do this. This is easy. This is kindergarten stuff. You're all doing it anyway. You just don't know you're doing it.
And as a little tip, my guides are reminding me of how I have a name for my higher self. So if I'm unsure, if I'm not getting the clearest message, I'll connect in and be like, my higher self's name is Grace. So I'll be like, ego, I would like to talk directly to Grace so that I can have this clear message right now. And, that's a really simple exercise that you can do, like take a moment and ask your higher self what their name is so that because we as humans, we like to know who we're talking with. That's definitely something we resonate with in this field. So, have that connection built, way of practicing. Eileen, does that answer your question about being able to discern between the two?
Yeah, that helps a lot. Thank you very much.
Wonderful.
So Kathy, can you clarify just a little bit your question, statement? I'm not sure
Sure. I was kind of going along with Eileen's when she was, okay, or maybe when you were saying you get hits from, if you're an empath, you can get hits from the spirit world, or from other people that are alive. That's,
yes.
I guess, what my question was. Okay. That's what an
Yes.
empath is. Okay. So
Well,
what's the difference between that and then channeling?
I don't know.
Is
Not
it
a
just
whole lot,
the same
really.
word? Oh, okay.
I
If
mean, you're all channeling. Every single one of you channels. You channel your non-physical consciousness through your physical realm, and you do it and you find words to string together sentences. You find imaginative ideas that you like to follow. We're all channeling. And this is where definitions come in, right? We've decided to define channel as a person who takes on a different personality or seems to lose their personality construct and channel another one, but we're actually technically all channeling. So it's a difference of beginning to recognize, because everything is frequency. Every single thing in this universe is frequency. So, and that's where discernment, you got to discern, what is the frequency of this thing I call higher self or intuitive guidance, right? Because it's just a word that we use to try to put some construct around it so that our human mind can figure it out, but it's all frequency. So, there's a difference between the frequency of connection between my dad, who passed on in March, and my mom, who passed on when I was 20, to the frequency that comes through. And it's very subtle. The frequency that comes through when it's an extension of myself, called my higher self, it's a different frequency. Like if anyone plays an instrument, the difference in frequency. The difference in just moving your hand slightly along a stringed instrument will change the frequency. And, this is what we're doing. We're literally moving our attention along a frequency slightly and discerning what the difference is. How is it coming through for us? So we're all in connection with the spiritual world. We're all in connection with anything we want. And as we move our frequency up and down, we will translate different ideas into our head, and they feel like thoughts. They usually come through in our own voice because that's the most comfortable thing for all of us. Interesting. So this interface called Zoom doesn't actually translate my real voice. You're hearing a computer rendering of my voice. So there's an interface, right? Your higher self is coming through an interface. It's called intuition, right? It's not an actual direct translation because you need to put it into a modality that you understand: language, feeling, sensation. So just kind of keep those things in mind. Tools for practice. So I'll answer then, Kai, you can answer. So any specific, so with intuition, I can tell you what works for me, but what's really, really, really important is you begin to ascertain what feels good for you. And so that formula that I gave will lead you to the tools that will be the most efficient and effective for you as a unique individual expression. So it goes like this: follow your highest level of excitement from the choices that you have before you. Don't make stuff up. If you don't have choices, don't make them up. Follow your highest level of excitement from the choices you have before you. One of them was attend the Zoom call. That was clearly your highest excitement, or you wouldn't be here. Take it as far as you can take it till you can't take it any farther. There's going to be a stopping point. Don't assume that excitement was supposed to translate into something specific and stay in a positive mindset no matter what. If you follow that formula, you will run into the perfect tools or methodologies for you specifically, because there isn't a perfect tool, because you're all unique expressions and you all have levels of resistance and allowance, and it's changing. It's a real-time expression. It's a real-time expression. So your tools might change from day to day, might change from moment to moment because of how you feel. So what works for me is I use this even when I have to clean the bathrooms. I put on a podcast because I need to find some level of excitement about the activity. Going outside, for dinner, I never make a game plan for dinner. I follow my highest. I got chicken in the fridge. What's my highest level of excitement? I don't know. I'll have to find a recipe, and when it resonates with me, I'll make it. And the last thing I'll say about this is that when I say your highest level of excitement, it depends on where you start. Someone might start from a depressed state. They're only going to access probably something a couple levels up. We're not saying go from depression to, elation. That's too much of a frequency jump. You just the highest level you can get to from where you begin at that moment of that day, which, if anybody who's been a human, which you all have, knows that it's going to change. You run into your kid in the hallway and they start griping at you and your frequency changes. Like, it's changing constantly. It's a real-time thing.
And as far as tools, you can put it out to the universe. What tool works best for me for right now for my highest good? So that, maybe you'll run into someone and they'll talk about a practice out of the blue, and you'll be like, oh, I remember when so-and-so told me that and I really enjoyed it. Maybe I'll go back to it. Or that gives you an idea of, well, this is my spin-off on it, so that you're creating your own thing. One of my most basic ways when you're like really just starting out talking to your intuition, I like to go for walks. You're in nature. And I like to make it a spirit guided walk. Or if you're going on a drive, you can do this as well, where I'm just like, I ask yes or no questions and I feel the frequency of the answer I'm getting. Like, should I go left? What do I feel? Should I go right? What do I feel? And then I get the ability to say, which one feels right to me for right now? Like, that's a really simple thing. Or, I might call out to my spirit team and be like, in the next week, show me a tool that's going to work for me right now to help, that will resonate with me and help lift up my frequency.
And a lot of times when we do this, the second thought into the bucket is a thought of doubt, because we've trained ourselves not to trust ourselves. I mean, let's be clear. All of us have doubts about self, lack of self-confidence, lack of self-awareness, lack of something. And so somebody at some point said to us, you're not good enough. And we went, oh, I'm not good enough. Ooh. So that will blend itself into when you get an intuitive hit, you may have a doubtful thought right on its heels. It's okay. It's all right. It's all good. It's just a matter of paying attention to what actually is happening in your reality and not demeaning it and not saying I shouldn't have that thought, because guess what? Everyone has it. It's okay. We're just examining our own relationship with reality. That's all. We're just witnessing how we create from a non-physical consciousness standpoint. That's all we're just playing. We're just having a good time. So if you have a doubtful thought on the heels of an intuitive hit, it's all right. It's all good. No big deal. It's okay.
And if anything, that gives us an opportunity to feel the difference in how constricted that doubtful thought felt and how open our intuition felt.
Yeah. And then you move forward and you play some more, you figure out what the next moment's going to be like. So what if you wake up in a bad mood? How do you switch to a higher frequency? So one of the things that I enjoy doing is, and I did this for a long time, where I would wake up and I would just remember that I remembered who I was. There was a time where I remember this day, I had a fight with Sophia, and we were mad at each other, and it stayed for a little while. It stayed through the night, and I woke up the next day and I remembered that I was mad at Sophia. But then it occurred to me, I'm like, oh, wait, I just remembered that I remembered my narrative. I just remembered my storyline. Do I really want to keep playing out this storyline? Or is it more important that I try to follow the highest level of excitement thing? You kind of got to just, I always talk about point of view, POV. When you're a writer, they have third person point of view. They have a point of view at which they're looking at. That's why fiction stories are so great, because we can look at all these different points of view. If you can pull away from yourself and have a different POV of yourself, witness yourself just as you are without judgment, it kind of helps to expand your awareness of what we're actually doing, because we can get so locked into these storylines. I'm mad at this person. I'm pissed off about that. That's never going to change. Like, we can really get into the storyline, but if you pull out and you try to have a different point of view. So if you can change your frequency, when you wake up in a mad mood, great. If you can't, it's okay. Just notice what's happening. Notice how, I'm not in a good frequency. Oh, gee, look at that thing happened. I wonder if that has anything to do with law of attraction and frequency. I don't know. Maybe I believe it. Maybe I don't, so you got to kind of just be the witness of your own narrative a little bit. And if you can change it, if you have enough practice, great. If you don't, that's okay. I spent like a year or two just witnessing myself get carried away in a negative mood, thinking that things would never work out, thinking that things were horrible, thinking I was bad. Like, I just witnessed the whole thing. And then one day I was like, well, that was interesting. Guess I'll do something different today. Okay, great.
I love that. Guess I just will. And you did.
Okay.
I like to, for my frequency, I like to have a practice in place where I'm in the vibration of being grateful. So when I open my drapes, I will say 3 things I'm grateful for. And they could be whatever just comes to me, right? It could be something that happened the day before, something that's coming for the day ahead or the future ahead, just things in general I'm grateful for. And I also like to say that if I, for some reason, forget to do those things, that's why I do it with the drapes. I do it without shame when I forget. So I notice I didn't open the drapes today. Oh, well, I can do it now. Or, it's already nighttime. You can still look outside and be like, oh, I'm grateful for nature. I'm grateful, whatever comes to you. That way you're saying out loud this vibration that you want to be in, because we've all been in the vibration of being grateful and it feels good, right? And then I also like to, when I have time, I have a little one. Sometimes she lets me, sometimes she doesn't, I like to say 3 things I love about myself. And Allison will probably agree, love the number of 3, the trinity of 3. And even if that day I'm having trouble thinking of something I love about myself, I will say it anyways. What gets my attention? What needs a little love, right? I still have some of the baby weight on. That's okay. I still love the body that I'm in, and I'm grateful for this body. So it can be things that, you're looking at yourself in the mirror like, oh, I love my eyes, or something not physical, like I love my mind. I love the thought processes that I go on. Or it can be, I just noticed my thighs. Well, I don't love them right now, but I'm going to say I love my thighs so that they got my attention. They need that vibration and I'm sending it there. So those are just 2 little things that I like to do, again, without any shame. If I forget to do them, oh, well, I get tomorrow, or I can do it now. but it's a way to kind of just feel the frequencies you want to be in, because being in love and gratitude is high vibrations.
And if you can't, that's okay too. We tend to get really down on ourselves for things we can't seem to do. Like if you do look in the mirror and you're like, not really feeling it. All right. So I just like to witness that I am responding to a reflection, because reality is a reflection, you guys. It's just a reflection. It's a reflection of our vibration. Every single thing. I know it looks like sometimes people come in your experience and poke at you, but they're a reflection of our own vibration. That's fundamentally what's happening. So if we can get past, eventually sort of move to the place where we understand that everything we experience is because it is in our frequency. We are resonating at even the stuff that doesn't feel so good. It's more of sort of like understanding the owner's manual of the being a non-physical consciousness, experiencing itself through physical. It's all good. It's even the stuff that's constricted is for the purpose of expansion. So it's really literally all good. Even though I know it doesn't feel good, I know it feels yucky sometimes. I get that.
Yeah,
Marta,
some of the hardest things we go through is when, we're learning our biggest lessons, and maybe in the thick of it, it's not fun, but then you get the chance to reflect back on it and be like, I did that. I, as a human, I, as a spirit, I did that. Does that answer your question, Kathy? Perfect.
So Marta, can you expand a little bit on that?
Yeah, I'm not sure what that question process for the answers.
I guess I for me, intuition is usually something that kind of comes randomly. I don't think I'm alone in that. It's something you feel like you just, get it. I have lots of energetic practices in place for other reasons, and sometimes it comes like that. I very recently have had the biggest, when you actually see physical proof of something that you had intuition of, and it took weeks before I actually saw the proof of it. And when I saw it, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. It was actual proof witnessed by other people. And it's like, there's something exciting about that. But at the same time, all of that was kind of stirred by a long kind of painful situation in my life, and decisions that need to be made, and searching for answers. And when you're not just looking for hits and bopping along, okay with something coming randomly, I feel like sometimes the relaxing thing, like you're trying too hard. It's like, tell me something. And I'm just trying to, I do some meditation, I do some things, but I was just wondering if you guys had anything when you really are not just looking for hits, but looking for a specific answer. Do you have a process or a method or something that helps you when you're actually seeking and not just being open to whatever comes? Does that make sense?
Kai, do you want to go first?
Sure. So what my gut leads me to is, I like, if you're sitting there and you're like, oh my God, I need this answer. Well, I'm going to step back. I'm going to notice that I'm needing this answer, although I don't need anything. And I'll change my direction. Like maybe I'll go do something that's, more like a somewhat meditative practice. Like I'll wash the dishes so that I'm kind of going into this different, okay, I was here, I was all constricted, I need this answer. Now I'm just kind of washing the dishes and see what comes in. That's what I like to do. Or I'll go work out. I'll do something, I'll change my focus, my direction, so that I allow space for something to come in for me. Or I'll turn to a friend and be like, what you got for me? Because it's important, I think, to remember that we're never in this alone. Whether you're connecting in with your higher self or you're going to a friend for their guides to connect in with yours, we're all working together. We don't have to have all the answers. Although
and I want to say thank you for saying that, Marta, because you just gave an example of a definition. You're experiencing it that way because that's your definition. So That's awesome, because I love when words give us the answers that we want. So your definition is intuition comes through in a spotty form. It's actually coming through 100%. You have somehow created a filter where it appears to be coming through spotty. That's a definition. Okay, that's how we know what our definition is because that's what we experience. So, you know, you could play with the ideas like, wow, it really looks like I'm having this definition that says intuition is coming through only certain times. I wonder what it would look like if I changed that, and what would I change it to, and how would it look like? So, you know, the what ifs in the positive sense are one way to go about it. Just start playing with this language in your head. The other thing is that exactly what Kai was saying. So when I said that formula, follow your highest level of excitement, take it as far as you can take it till you can't take it any farther, don't demand that it be something. That's the point that most people violate, is they want and they think they need something very specific. And so they contract because they're like, it's not coming and I want that one answer. And what happens when we contract is we miss the infinite variety of ways that it is coming to us, because it is coming. Ask and you will receive. You have already received it on a vibrational level. We are vibrational beings. Our job is to translate the vibration. It's a constant, it is literally a fluctuating mechanism. It could become any form that you need in that moment, because it's not a stagnant thing. It's a live, vibrant thing. And so the translation of what you need to help you get clarity or to provide some ease with your situation can come in literally infinite ways, and it's constantly changing. So our job as translators of vibration is to be always trying to gravitate towards things that are expansive. And then when you're like, all right, so I don't have my answer, so now what? So maybe I'll go to the mall, walk around, because I really enjoy that. It makes me relax, it makes me feel good. And then you'd be like, all right, so remind yourself, this is an infinite universe. Infinite. It could come in an infinite amount of ways. God, I wonder what that would look like. That would be so cool. I mean, I'm ready to be surprised. I have no idea what that's going to look like, but I am ready. Show me a purple elephant in the middle of the highway or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, I'm ready and I'm anticipating. There was many Christmases ago when our middle child was young, we gave Stellan this box of Beanie Babies. They weren't expecting it. I mean, I stacked like 20 of these Beanie Baby or whatever, I filled it. So they unzipped it. And I still remember their face. They were like, that's what you want. You want to be like, oh my God, I never imagined it would look like that, right? Like that, infinite ways, you guys, infinite. If you say it has to come in one way, you've missed all the other ways in which it's already coming to you. Beanie Babies. You want a box of Beanie Babies. That's what you want.
Those are good days. All right, so I think we have 2 more questions and then we'll probably end with those. So I noticed, Julie, you put your hand up. Did you want to come off mute and ask something?
Well, yeah, I did. You just made me think of a game Esther Hicks has called "Wouldn't It Be Nice If?" Have you heard of that? Where a person goes in the hot seat and has a problem, a real life problem, and then everyone in the audience says, "Well, wouldn't it be nice if you were on the metro tonight and somebody came up to you and said all these different ways that the answer might come up, that we get kind of closed-minded, and one way it's going to show up." And it was such a loosening of to me, it just loosened up my openness. I thought it was really cool. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Or like, I wonder, and then you get to fill in the dance. Or if I wasn't afraid, I would, and you just kind of see what comes. Definitely. Thank you for.
Yeah, that was great. Perfect. What if both sides of a decision don't feel expanding? So how to look for intuition to help with that? Well, first of all, there isn't just 2 sides of a decision. There's only 2 sides that you're seeing.
Yep.
But there's not 2 sides. There's infinite number of ways that you can decide to go. Our brains tend to think in small multiples and only what we've experienced, because we're running a narrative, and the narrative includes only the experiences we've had, because that's all we know. I can't run Kaileen's narrative. I don't know what it is. I can't imagine it. I can't verbalize it. It's her narrative. I can only imagine mine. And so when we start to pull from the archives, we pull, and usually if it's a constrictive energy, we pull the archival, memories of the ways in which it didn't work out. And so we say, oh my God, there's only 2 decisions here. No, actually there's infinite. There's infinite. Your intuition will lead you based on your path of least resistance towards the ideas. And as you expand, remember, you can't experience something that you're not the frequency of. So as you shift your frequency, because the problem and solution are completely different frequencies. So as you experience your problem, if you're looking for solutions on the same vibe the problem is on, Beth, you'll experience this. The problem is, I hear that a lot at home. The problem is, I don't know if you hear that too, Beth, at the, okay. So it work. I hear a lot of conversations about the institution. The problem is, and I'm thinking, oh, here we go. The problem is, if you focus on the problem and you try to figure out where the solution is on the same plane that the problem is, you're not going to find it because it's not there. It's somewhere else. And so you got to back away from this problem that's constricting you and be like, all right, I don't know what it is. No clue, but I'm willing to experience it. I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know what it's going to sound like. I know that there are infinite ways that I could go about figuring this out. I just don't know what they are, but I'm willing. So you know what? I'm going to go to bed tonight. And when I go to bed tonight, I'm going to express to my higher self that I'd love some info when I wake up tomorrow morning and what the best approach would be, because when you go to sleep, you release your resistance. And so boom, it comes in and you wake up, you're like, oh, wait, that idea. And they start grabbing at it, write it down, what is it? I feel it. That's perfect. That's a perfect answer. So follow that breadcrumb to another one, and then another one, and then another one.
Yeah, and to that part, when you are at that point where you're saying, oh, I have these 2 answers, a lot of times we like to say 2 because we're used to the right and the wrong. But like you already said, where there's infinite. Saying that right now, I have these 2 answers, put yourself in a tiny little box, right? So how can we feel expansive if we're in this tiny little box? I like to picture the mime that's like, oh my God, get me out of here. Well, shatter that fake little box and just allow whatever is supposed to come in for your highest good and your highest good only. Does that answer your question? Perfect. Gotta thank you.
Yeah, think about radio signals or apps like Instagram or Netflix. The information is there in the ether, which is why when you go on Instagram or you go on Netflix, you connect with that information. But when you go off of Netflix is still running. I can't see it because I'm here with you guys, but the frequency is still there and the information is still funneling through. And once we leave here, it's not like we disappear. We're all still here. We're just not on this frequency. So, multiplicity, lots of different solutions, lots of different things.
Definitely. All right.
Resource recommendations. So I started with the Seth series by Jane Roberts. Loved that series in terms of figuring out how reality works. I'm a bookie. I like lots of books. I'm liking the sound healing stuff that we're doing. And I know that's not a resource, but you probably even find sound stuff on the internet. You can find music, which taps you into your inner frequency, which will give you ideas, right? It will lead you and you'll hit upon an idea that is a perfect idea for you.
To that, her last question, I like to kind of play a game with it. I'll be like, this is what I'm wondering about. Spirit, give me a message when I'm supposed to go on Facebook. And the first thing I see is what you're guiding me towards, right? That happened earlier before this call. I was like, we were talking about retreats and I was like, oh, maybe we're supposed to go to Hawaii because I just opened Facebook and there was a Airbnb for Hawaii, right? So you just kind of, what are you already being guided to? just follow those, or, have an intuitive buddy that you can work with and connect with them and be like, what do you got for me today? But have your message come to you directly. And books come to you directly. There'll be someone talking about a random thing. And I'm like, oh, you have a book for me, right? And they're like, well, this has nothing to do with what we're talking with, but here you go.
You're like, yes, it does.
Yeah. Right. All right. Well, thank you everyone who came and joined us today, and for all your watching the replay. We greatly appreciate your time. Today was lovely. Really quickly, just a recap. So define, work on your awareness, practice, acknowledge, get out of your own way. For those who have enjoyed this, Allison and myself will be putting together a class in about a month. However you found this class, that's how you can find it, where we're gonna check in, see how we're going with these 5 keys. What troubleshooting can we do together? So that will be a paid class, and more information to come on that. And then I really, since I'm so excited about, just want to quickly mention that Allison and I are putting together a retreat in Oregon, Illinois. So like right in the middle of the country. So bring people in. It's a woodland retreat, Awaken Woodland Retreat. It's going to be a lot of fun. We hope that you'll join us there. And we just thank you for your time. Connect with us however you connect. Again, my name is Kaileen Cox. My website is awakeninnatehealing.com. Or my email is awakeninnatehealing@gmail. Allison, do you want to give
Sure.
you
Mine's just AllisonSutter.com is my website. You can find me there. You can find me on Instagram, Allison Sutter 3. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me everywhere. I'm in the ether. I'm everywhere.
She's out there. We're all out there, right?
Yeah, and check out the retreat because it's gonna be awesome.
Yes, it is. Thank
And the
you
class.
all. And if you are watching the replay of this, please give us a little thumbs up or share it with a friend that you think would benefit from it. All right. Thank you.
You guys are
everyone.
awesome.
Have
You
a
got this. We'll
wonderful
look forward
day.
to seeing you at the next one. Yay.
Yeah.